Marvel making a secret third Avengers movie? Wait, what is this?
Marvel Studios has had a release date
Damn,
set for
that's
a
loud, bro.
mystery movie for some time now. Now, Marvel and Disney typically do this. They release a
That is so loud in my ears. I'm sorry.
schedule that basically lists everything that they've announced, and in slots that they have planned, they simply put untitled Marvel film. And
Okay.
right now, Marvel has one of those secret untitled films set for July 2027, coming out before Avengers Secret Wars. And what's interesting is that some
Bro, that is like a whole 2 years away. What the hell?
insiders slash veterans from the industry seem to think that that mystery movie could be another Avengers film. And after going through this full report, I'm starting to think this could be what Marvel Studios might try to do. And after going through their filming schedule and
I am so curious to see what they do in Doomsday. Bro, none of this shit has been connected for the most part. Like, gone are the days of phase 1. They had Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, the Avengers. Not in that exact order. But the Avengers was always at the end. It was the culmination of the era. And then they had the same thing, relatively. And then they had Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man tossed in there. And then they had another Avengers movie. And then they did relatively the same thing, but with more stuff like Black Panther, Ant-Man 2, the other Spider-Man movie. What else did they do? Guardians 2. And then they had the Avengers. Then they had a couple more movies, then they had the Avengers again. It all worked well. It all fit together. These last few phases have made no sense. Like, put together.
registrations of production companies, and no insiders revealing any other movie set for that slate, I'm actually thinking the signs do point towards them making another Avengers film. And I'm sure many of you as well, want them to do this. And not just because I want another Avengers movie, which I do, but because I actually think it would be the best decision Marvel could make. If you've been catching our podcast or our live streams, you've probably heard me state that I do believe that Marvel Studios should push back Avengers Doomsday by a year. That way, with that extra year, we could have two other movies that kind of introduce Doom a little bit
You
more.
think they should? I mean, that makes sense, but I don't want to wait another fucking year for this movie to finally come out.
And give us a bigger build up to Avengers Doomsday. But simply adding another Avengers film, that would also do the trick. And I also think that at this point in time, Marvel Studios is willing to do whatever they need to do to not only bring the Marvel hype back, but to also score insanely big at the box office, because they haven't really done that lately. They've had a series of underperformances at the box office, and then they've had some pretty good performances. Then of course some outliers like Deadpool and Wolverine and the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I do think Marvel would actually include another Avengers film. And as we go through this report, it seems like that might be their plan, because that was kind of their plan all along, at least originally. This report is coming from Charles Murphy at Murphy's Multiverse, and it's titled Connecting Imaginary Dots. A second Avengers film will hit theaters in 2027, so he seems pretty confident. Now, he starts off this article by stating that originally Marvel Studios did intend on releasing two Avengers films within the same year, and not just releasing them within the same year, but having them only 6 months apart. Now, at the time, in 2022, this was originally for the Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. And obviously, since then, a lot has changed, but the premise might still stand. What if Marvel Studios still plans on releasing two Avengers films in the same year? Because according to a new trade report, Marvel still plans on keeping that July 2027 release date, in which, yeah,
I feel like if they do this, people might just start calling him desperate at that point.
kind of have to. If they didn't, they would only have one movie releasing in 2027 in December, Avengers Secret Wars. So what could this mysterious movie be? Well, this report does acknowledge that there is a slight chance that it could be Blade. It would be a presumably low budget movie which could lead to a big box office success for the studio, but based on everything we've heard about Blade, it's probably not it. Enter what Charles Murphy says is an all-new, all-different Avengers film.
Avengers Time Runs Out. That's a horrible title. That is a horrible title, bro.
Stating there is another option, Marvel Studios making good on its insane plan to roll out 2 Avengers films in a calendar year. After rolling out an Avengers film every 3 years before dropping Infinity War and Endgame 1 year apart, the studio has used the first 5 years of the multiverse saga to spin a whole lot of disparate tales and introduce a whole lot of new characters, only to never follow up on very many of them. That's left a bad taste in the collective maw of fandom as heroes such as
Bro, do you guys remember when we got a leaked Avengers thing and it was like, oh, Shang-Chi is gonna die in the Avengers movie and not gonna get a second movie? And it's like, really? The character that everyone actually liked from Phase 4? There's no way. Like, I don't know what to believe anymore, because if they do that, that's fucking stupid. Do not kill the most popular character from the only movie that did really well in Phase 4.
Moon Knight, and She-Hulk have been, to date, one and dones. And now as the multiverse saga finds itself accelerating to its end, it becomes increasingly difficult to imagine incorporating them all into the cast alongside the stars announced as part of the cast of Avengers Doomsday. However, releasing a 3rd Avengers film in theaters in July 2027 between Doomsday and Secret Wars might provide the narrative runway to make it possible. And he does make a really good point that Marvel Studios hasn't given any indication that this movie will be a property of which the public is not aware. And as of now, there hasn't been any hiring of new writers or directors that hasn't been made public, that is, and there have been no new production companies that aren't already believed to be accounted for. Basically stating that if Marvel Studios did plan on doing a movie, they haven't registered anything for this movie. And no insiders have really heard anything about another movie that hasn't already kind of been put out there. So it's not going to be something that just comes out of left field that Marvel has somehow managed to keep secret. And the reason for that could be because they're just going to continuously shoot 3 Avengers films back to back to back. But the next part of the article is why I really think that this is something that Disney and Marvel...
Do they even have the money for that anymore? With how many of their movies did poorly, do they have the budget to be able to do that? I know it's Disney, but Disney, I don't know if they have the faith that they used to in the Marvel Studios brand.
Marvel would do. The article continues and states, verily, Disney's new approach has shorted Marvel, but a secret 3rd Avengers film would ensure that the studio would own the box office for 12 months. Whether it's Avengers Time Runs Out, Avengers Battleworld, Avengers Everything Dies, or Avengers Illuminati.
Avengers Everything Dies? What the fuck are these titles? Even Avengers Illuminati makes more sense.
States that an Illuminati project was 100% in development at Marvel Studios at one point in time, which I did hear about as well, but a bridge spanning Doomsday and Secret Wars is a fascinating and cash-rich opportunity for Marvel. And furthermore, he states that logistically, it is legitimately possible that work has been being done on these films, even under different names, for at least 3 years. Ideas can be cut and pasted and altered under the purview of the new creative team. Typically, principal photography on a Marvel Studios film lasts 3 to 4 months. Doomsday is already on its 5th month. Secret Wars was originally set to film back to back before a year's width of space was added.
Imagine if they called Avengers Infinity War, if they called it Everything Dies.
But who is to say that between now and September 2026, cameras aren't continually rolling? Which was exactly my thought. What if they just kept rolling? Why have a year off? Why not go back to back to back? Well, perhaps that's what they're planning on doing. And what's interesting is that we have been hearing for some time that Secret Wars might be a...
Imagine if Doomsday, they kill Doom. The next one, they kill Kang. And the 3rd one, they kill Thanos for a third fucking time.
Part movie, which I have always advocated for. With a story like Secret Wars, and especially in the comics with the time runs out story happening before it, that needs a lot of time, especially if you consider just how many characters are going to be in this film. They've already announced a ton, with a lot more expected to be announced as well. With a cast this big, we assume that there's going to be a lot of stories going on. Well, Marvel should take their time with this, and I've always stated that anything that happens between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars needs to be connected to the overall story. The connectivity of the MCU has been what fans have loved, but unfortunately we haven't really gotten much of that in the multiverse saga, and now our big bad that we were building up to has completely changed, and a lot of people are really worried about the buildup. Well, having Avengers Doomsday simply be a film that's really centered on Doom, giving us his origin, giving us what he has learned about the multiverse, etc., making it all about him, is basically the buildup that we need, and that would build up to the next Avengers film and then Avengers Secret Wars. And at the same time, you don't really want a movie to come out in between Doomsday and Secret Wars that's gonna kill the hype that you've already built. Marvel knows that they need maximum hype for their next 4 movies, those 4 movies being Spider-Man Brand New Day, Avengers Doomsday, this secret movie, and Avengers Secret Wars. Well, the best way to build maximum hype...
Bro, I kind of want to see at the beginning of Doomsday, they just, like, the Avengers just arrest Kang and put him in prison for beating his wife.
Is to have that secret film be an Avengers film, and on top of that, a secret Avengers film. And just an hour before I recorded this video, me and Chris went live and we were talking about how Marvel will probably do anything and everything that they can do to make sure everything moving forward is maximum hype, because they know people are talking about superhero fatigue. They know people are talking about Captain America Brave New World's box office numbers, the Thunderbolts box office numbers, and the Fantastic Four's box office numbers. And they know their next film is pretty much a guaranteed win. However, they share that with Sony. But they'll have hype coming from Spider-Man Brand New Day going into Avengers Doomsday, and then that movie after, they need to elevate it even more. So having another Avengers film there, that would definitely do the trick. And honestly, I think it would get fans super excited about it, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below. Should they do...
I don't know. I doubt we're getting 3 Avengers movies in the course of like a year or 2. That sounds ridiculous to me. But, you know, they have done stuff similar to this before, so who knows?